Have you ever had a high caliber person tell you they'd serve in some way, and then the next thing you know, they quit on you? It's unbelievably frustrating when that happens. And now you're back to the drawing board trying to find someone to help you fill that role. Well, that's why you need a pipeline of volunteers. And in today's episode, we're going to share an 8-step process to recruit church volunteers so the positions are always filled. Stay tuned. You know, I serve in the Connect Center at our church, and so before and after service, we have guests coming in there, and I serve with another gal who we've worked together for the last year or so, and a couple of months ago, we're just chit-chatting along in a kind of a lull in the action, and she's a school teacher, 4th grade school teacher, and one thing led to another, and I kind of found out that she enjoys writing and that she can do editing. Well, I'm saying to her, well, man, here at Leaders Church, we're constantly producing written material. Would you be open to volunteering to edit some of this? I don't want to pressure you on it. I said, slam dunk. She'd love to do it. Well, boom. Just in that moment, she's become the initial editor. When we write a blog, we ship it off to her, and she does the first edit. Then it goes through a series of other things. But the point being, it was in conversation that my antenna was up. Not to say I'm big and bad and all that smart, but the point is, as a leader in our organization, I was watching for that. Yeah. And that's the kind of thing that we want to encourage you with today as we're talking about, this is a 2-part episode of podcast where we're going to talk about how to help you recruit volunteers. And the very first thing is what happened when I was meeting with Shelley. Had to have my antenna up. Yep. You've got to be attuned to exactly what's going on around you so that you can watch for volunteers, because volunteers are ready and willing to go. Okay. So we're going to take the first 4 here today, and I'm going to give you the first one. It's not rocket science, but it's absolutely critical. If you're going to recruit volunteers, you have to pray and think. In other words, you have to engage your heart, your spirit with the Lord, and then you have to engage your intellect. When you merge the two of those together, you're going to see great things happen. If you think you're so smart that you can do it on your own, you're going to be sorely disappointed, sorely mistaken. And if you think you'll pray and everything will just fall in your lap, I mean, I've tried that. That doesn't happen. You need to pray and think. That's your very first step when you're going to start recruiting volunteers. Yep. Second step.
Second step is to contact the prospect. So at the outset, let me just say this: whenever you're recruiting someone, you're asking for someone to step up and be involved. Maybe it's whatever the position would be. You have to be mindful of the genders, and if you're going to be meeting with someone, you want to make sure that you're bringing another person with you, so that way you're not just meeting one-on-one with the opposite gender. But you've got to contact them somehow. So if it's a phone call, obviously you can call them, text them, whatever's going to be personal. But you just want to be careful as you contact people to make sure you're protecting yourself, protecting the people, and having those hedges around you. But you have to make that call. I mean, once you've prayed, once you've thought about it, then at some point you have to say, okay, hey, I'm gonna make a contact here, and I'm gonna throw out this idea that I want to get in touch, or I want to meet over coffee or lunch or whatever to present, or what I want to ask them to do, or to talk to them about what you want them to do. And so you're never going to have people if you don't first make that contact with them. I mean, you can, say, hey, fill out the card in the sanctuary and, do this, but, and you're going to pick up a few people who are going to be like, oh yeah, I want to get involved. But most of the time you have to recruit. Yeah. And so this is the second step, is you have to actually go out and make contact with people right out of the gate. Third thing is, when you meet with the person, you need to communicate vision and mission. Let me tell you how not to start your meeting. Hey, Jonathan, great. I'm glad you were able to meet with us. I need people to work in the kids area. I need people to work in the auditorium. Yeah. Can you help me? Right. Well, I've said nothing about vision and mission. See, if I'm going to recruit Jonathan to serve, I want to recruit him to something bigger than himself.
I want to talk to him about the vision that the Lord has given our church, the mission to reach spiritually lost people. And I want to get his head. You see what his head started doing just a little bit? We didn't even set this up, but his head started doing this. See, the head needs to start doing this before you go to the point where you're going to ask. You need to cheerlead. The initial part of meeting with someone as a prospect is for you to be the cheerleader and talk about the wonderful things the Lord is doing across the church, not just in the area you're talking about. But if you'll do that, you'll set the stage for good things.
And if I recall, I think we talked about that a little bit in episode 2 of when we talk about building your volunteer corps and beefing up that volunteer corps of how to communicate the vision, because that's going to be so important for you when you are recruiting people.
Exactly right.
So
number 4.
Okay, number 4. The final thing we want to cover today is you want to talk about the prospect. So you want to be focused on them. You don't want to be just talking all about you, all about your needs, all about the church's needs. You want to also talk about them and how can they capitalize on their giftings and on their interests and on their needs. And then from there, you'll eventually be able to move them, hopefully, to the point where they're recognizing that they can use them, their needs, their gifts, their talents, their resources, all of that, their life experience, their work. I mean, you could go on and on.
Yeah.
All of these things, how they can culminate together with the need that the church has. But until you identify that with them, they're not going to necessarily be able to see that and be able to figure out how that can all work together. And so this is a huge aspect and sometimes overlooked, I feel like, is we just jump straight to our needs. He's like, oh, well, let me, once we've contacted them, once we've communicated the vision, now it's like, well, now let me just tell you, here's what we need. Yeah, and can you do this? Well, and I recognize that this feels like, well, this is a slow process. But especially when it comes to recruiting someone who's in a leadership role where you're asking for a big commitment, you have to take the time to talk about them, find out where they're at. And you want to do that anyway because you want to take care of them from a shepherding standpoint. But how you helping them see their gifts, talents, resources, experience, all that, helping them see that and articulate that, then makes it easier for when you say, so this is what we need. And by that point, they're like, well, this is a no-brainer. I mean, I got all this experience. I mean, like, I'm gifted in this. And, so.
Away you go.
Yeah. And so the yes is going to come a lot quicker if you do take the time to talk about the prospect
That's good,
first.
Jonathan. That's good.
So those are the first 4 things. Dick, why don't you recap that for us?
Okay, the 4 things are to pray and think. Number 2 is to contact the prospect. Number 3 is to communicate vision and mission. And number 4 is to talk about the prospect themselves. Yep. Those are the 4 things.
And so these are the first 4 out of the 8-step process that you want to use to recruit church volunteers. No matter what the ministry it is, whether it's what we would call a high-level leadership role or whether it's more of a general role, you want to constantly be working, almost where you have like a pipeline happening and people are constantly coming in, because the reality is people are going to come and go. And so we want to make sure we've got those people that we need ready to go to step up to levels of leadership, step into new roles, even if it's just the changing the diapers.
Right.
We talk about that in the church, in the volunteer corps episode number 2. But it doesn't matter what it is. You have to make sure that you do these things. So then in the next episode, we're going to talk about the final 4 things you need to do. So that way, by that 8th step, they are just saying, yes, they're begging you to get involved. Yeah. And that's what can happen when you follow the 8-step process that we're talking about here. So what else do we have?
I think that covers it. That gets us set, and we're ready for next time.
All right. Well, be sure, if you have not yet taken the 5-day leadership challenge, to take the challenge. 15 minutes a day for 5 days. It's free. Sign up at leaders.church/challenge. It's going to help you be a better leader. We've got thoughts in there that's going to rock the boat a little bit. Got a text the other day about someone saying this was kind of challenging them and rocking their boat a little bit. And that's what can happen when you take the challenge. Leaders.church/challenge, 15 minutes a day for 5 days. It's free, and be sure to sign up as well. Don't forget to sign up for the podcast on the podcast platforms or subscribe on YouTube, and we'll make sure to get those notifications to you so that way you don't miss any episodes coming up. And I think that's it for now.
That's it.
So we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Talk soon. Hey, Jonathan here, real quick before you go. Everything in your ministry rises and falls on your leadership. So investing in your leadership is essential to staying healthy and growing the ministry. And that's why I want to invite you to join us inside the Leaders.Church membership. This online streaming service for pastors gives you access to more than 300 videos plus training material to level up your leadership and improve your ministry skills. If you'd like to do that, I want to invite you to go to leaders.church/boost. Again, that's leaders.church/boost. Well, thanks again for joining us on the Church Tips Podcast. We'll look forward to seeing you next time.